The glass of water never made it to my lips. I stood frozen in my kitchen, my daughter Sarah's voice drifting through the cracked patio door like poison. Just 3 more months, baby. The doctors said 6 at most, but Dad's declining faster. Once he's gone, the house alone is worth $2 million. Plus the life insurance, the investments. We're talking $8 million easy. My hand trembled as I set the glass down silently on the granite counter. The same counter where Sarah had cried just this morning, telling me how scared she was of losing me. No, he has no idea, she continued, her voice casual, like she was discussing dinner plans. I changed everything last week when he was at chemo. Power of attorney makes it so easy. Mom's been gone 3 years. There's literally no one else to question it. The betrayal hit harder than the cancer diagnosis had 6 weeks ago. Stage 3 pancreatic cancer, they'd said. 6 months if I was lucky. I'd made my peace with death, but this was something else entirely. Dylan, stop worrying. He can barely get out of bed most days. Yesterday, he couldn't even remember my middle name. The cancer's in his brain now. At least that's what I tell the lawyers. But my mind was sharp. Clearer than it had been in weeks, actually. The new treatment was working, shrinking the tumors, buying me time the doctors hadn't expected. Time my daughter was apparently counting down like a lottery winner waiting for payday. I crept back upstairs, each step calculated to avoid the creaky boards I'd been meaning to fix for years. In my bedroom, I closed the door and pulled out my phone. 3 calls. That's all it would take. The first was to my oncologist, Dr. Martinez. Robert, it's 10 at night. Is everything okay? Better than okay. I need you to do something for me. That experimental treatment. I want to accelerate it. Whatever it costs. And I need documentation that my mental faculties are intact. The treatment is working remarkably well, but accelerating. I'll sign whatever waivers you need. I have my reasons. All right, come in tomorrow. And Robert, the cognitive tests will show you're sharper than most healthy people. The cancer hasn't touched your brain. Perfect. The second call was to my lawyer, Benjamin Hartley. We'd been friends since college, and he answered on the second ring. Rob, how are you feeling? Like I need to update my will. How soon can you see me? For you? I'll come to the house tomorrow. No, I'll come to your office. Alone. And Ben, I need you to look into any recent changes to my accounts, beneficiaries, anything involving power of attorney. His tone shifted from friendly to professional. Rob, is everything all right? Just do it. And document everything. The third call was the hardest. Marcus, my private investigator friend from my old corporate days. Need a favor, I said without preamble. Deep dive on Dylan Chin. Everything. Financial history, criminal record, social media, previous relationships. Sarah's boyfriend? I thought you liked him. Things change. How soon? Give me 48 hours. I hung up and laid back against my pillows, staring at the ceiling. Sarah thought I was weak, dying, confused. She had no idea that 25 years in corporate acquisitions had taught me to recognize a hostile takeover when I saw one. Even when it came from my own daughter. The next morning, I played my part perfectly. Weak, confused, struggling with basic tasks. Sarah was all gentle touches and worried glances, helping me to the breakfast table. How are you feeling, Dad? Tired, I mumbled, purposely knocking over my orange juice. Sorry, sweetheart. Everything's fuzzy lately. She cleaned it up with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. It's okay. That's what I'm here for. Actually, I was thinking we should talk about maybe getting you full-time care. For when things get worse. Whatever you think is best, I said vaguely, noting how quickly she brightened. I'll make some calls today. Oh, and I need you to sign some insurance forms. Just routine stuff. Of course, dear. She produced papers with suspicious speed. I signed them with a shaky hand, making sure my signature was nothing like my actual one. Let her think she was winning. After she left for her job, which I now suspected was just hours spent with Dylan, I drove myself to Ben's office. The look on the security guard's face when I walked in steadily, clearly not the dying man my daughter had been describing, was priceless. Rob, Ben said after his paralegal closed the door. I pulled everything you asked for. You need to see this. The documents he spread across his desk painted a damning picture. In the past 2 weeks, Sarah had changed beneficiaries on all my life insurance policies, attempted to transfer investment accounts, blocked only by additional security protocols, added Dylan as co-beneficiary on several accounts, Tried to initiate the sale of my vacation home in Aspen. She's been busy, I said grimly. Can we reverse it all? Already in motion. But Rob, this is fraud. Federal crime level fraud. Your own daughter. I know what she is, I said quietly. Now let's talk about what she's going to become, disinherited. We spent 3 hours crafting a new will. Airtight, uncontestable, with video documentation of my mental state. Sarah would receive exactly $1. Enough to prove I hadn't forgotten her, not enough to contest it. Everything else would go to cancer research and a scholarship fund in my late wife's name. Dr. Martinez was next. The cognitive tests were extensive, filmed, and witnessed. My results were, as he'd predicted, exceptional. Your treatment is working better than we hoped, he said. The tumors have shrunk by 30%. With the accelerated protocol, we might be looking at years, not months. Let's keep that between us for now. Marcus's report came that evening, delivered in person to avoid digital trails. Dylan Chin is a professional, he said, sliding photos across my desk. 3 previous girlfriends, all with wealthy dying fathers. All died within months of meeting him. All left everything to their daughters, who then mysteriously transferred large sums to offshore accounts before disappearing. He's done this before. At least 3 times. Different states, different names. Sarah's not his first mark, Rob. She might not even know she's a mark. His pattern is to romance vulnerable women with sick relatives, convince them to steal, then disappear with the money once the relative dies. Or maybe she does know, I said, thinking of the cold calculation in her voice on the patio. Maybe she's evolved from victim to accomplice. That night at dinner, I watched my daughter perform. The concerned touches, the worried glances, the gentle suggestions that I should rest more, worry less. All while she was counting my money in her head. Dad, she said, cutting my steak for me like I was a child. I've been thinking, maybe we should have a movie night? Like we used to when I was little. That sounds nice, I said, letting my hand shake as I reached for my water. We watched her mother's favorite film. Sarah cried at all the right parts, curled against me like the little girl she used to be. For a moment, I almost believed it was real. Then I caught her checking her phone, saw Dylan's name flash across the screen. How much longer? The next phase of my plan required patience. I gave them rope, curious to see how far they'd go. Sarah became bolder, bringing Dylan around more often. He was all charm and concern, the perfect supportive boyfriend. Mr. Morrison, he said one evening, gripping my hand firmly. Sarah's told me so much about you. It must be hard, facing this alone. I have Sarah, I replied, noting how his eyes flickered to the Monet on the wall, the Rolex on my wrist. Of course. She's devoted to you. We both are. That night, I heard them in the study, going through my files. Security cameras I'd installed years ago captured everything. Dylan teaching Sarah how to forge my signature more convincingly, which accounts to Target, how to make transfers look like medical expenses. Your dad's loaded, he whispered. This house, the art, the cars, were set for life, baby. I know, Sarah giggled. I still can't believe he never remarried. 3 years since Mom died, and he just held on to everything. For me, he said. Well, now I'm taking him up on it. The casual cruelty of it, laughing about her dead mother, the woman who'd raised her with such love, made my decision easier. 2 weeks later, I collapsed at dinner. Planned, of course, with Dr. Martinez's help. A harmless drug that mimicked severe symptoms without causing damage. Sarah's performance of the panicked daughter was Oscar-worthy. At the hospital, she whispered urgently to Dylan in the hallway, not knowing I could hear. This is it. He's declining fast. We need to move everything now. The papers? In my purse. I just need him conscious enough to sign. They came in together, Sarah's eyes red with fake tears. Dad? The doctors say we need to make arrangements. There are some papers. I let my eyes flutter, reached weakly for the pen. Behind them, Ben walked in with 2 security guards and a federal marshal. Actually, Sarah, I think we need to discuss some different papers. Like the fraudulent transfers you've been making. The look on her face as I sat up straight, clear-eyed and steady, was almost worth the betrayal. Dad, her voice cracked. I don't understand. Neither did I said, standing smoothly. Until I heard you on the patio 3 weeks ago. Every word, Sarah. Every single word. Dylan tried to run. The marshal caught him before he reached the door. Sarah just stood there, mouth open, the mask finally slipping. You were faking? The only thing fake in this room is your concern for me. I turned to the marshal. Everything you need is on these drives. Video, audio, documented fraud going back weeks. Dad, please. Sarah grabbed my arm. I'm your daughter. I made a mistake. No, a mistake is forgetting my birthday. This is a crime spree. I pulled free from her grip. Your mother would be devastated. That broke her. Real tears finally, but far too late. I needed the money. Do you know what it's like being your daughter? Never measuring up? Never being good enough. So you decided to steal it? To celebrate my death before I was even gone. Dylan said. Dylan's a con artist who's done this 3 times before. You're just his latest mark. Except you became his accomplice. The arrest was swift, efficient. As they led her away, Sarah looked back one last time. What happens to me now? That's for the courts to decide. Your inheritance? That's already decided. $1. Don't spend it all in one place. The trial was a media sensation. Daughter plots to steal dying father's fortune made every headline. Dylan got 15 years, his previous crimes catching up with him. Sarah got 5, with possible parole in 3. I visited her once, 6 months into her sentence. The orange jumpsuit aged her, or maybe it was just the absence of designer clothes and false concern. How's the cancer? She asked, not meeting my eyes. In remission. The treatment worked. I might have another 20 years. I watched her flinch. Funny how wanting to live gives you strength. I'm sorry, she whispered. For getting caught? Or for planning to dance on my grave? For all of it. Dylan, he made it sound so easy. Said you'd never know, that rich people never notice missing money. I noticed everything, Sarah. Every fake tear, every calculated hug. What I don't understand is why. You had everything. She finally looked up, and for the first time in months, I saw my daughter instead of the stranger she'd become. I had nothing. Mom died and you just shut down. Threw yourself into work, into charity. Everyone got a piece of you except me. Dylan was the first person who made me feel special in years. So you decided to rob me? I decided to take what I thought you'd never give me. Your attention. Even if it meant. She gestured around the visiting room. I stood to leave. You had my attention, Sarah. You had my love. You just wanted my money more. Will you ever forgive me? I paused at the door. Ask me in 20 years. If I'm still alive. That was 2 years ago. The cancer's still in remission, the treatment's still working. The house echoes now, empty of family but full of purpose. I converted Sarah's room into an office for the Scholarship Foundation, helping kids who actually deserve a chance. Sometimes I wonder if I could have handled it differently. If confronting her that night on the patio might have changed things. But then I remember her laugh as she planned my funeral, and I know the truth. Some betrayals cut too deep for second chances. The will stands as written. $1 to Sarah, everything else to charity. She'll be out on parole soon, according to her lawyer's letters. Starting over at 32, with a felony record and a father who learned the hard way that blood doesn't always mean family. Last week, Dr. Martinez called with test results. The cancer's not just in remission, it's gone. Completely. A miracle, he said. I laughed until I cried. All those months of Sarah checking her watch, waiting for me to die, planning her future on my grave. And here I am, healthier than I've been in years, with decades ahead of me. Decades to live. Decades to give to people who deserve it. Decades for Sarah to know that her father survived, not just the cancer, but her betrayal. Some might call it cruel, cutting her off completely. But cruelty would have been letting her succeed, letting her become the kind of person who could sleep soundly on blood money. Instead, she gets to live with the knowledge that she traded her family for a con man's promises and a future that evaporated the moment she decided I was worth more dead than alive. The scholarship recipients send me letters sometimes, talking about their dreams and goals. I read them in the study where Sarah and Dylan once plotted my demise, surrounded by the art they'd already mentally sold. That's my revenge, I suppose. Not just surviving, but thriving. Using the fortune she tried to steal to build something meaningful. Something that honors her mother's memory in ways Sarah never could. The 3 phone calls that night saved more than my money. They saved my life. Because wanting to live, really live, to spite those who bet against you, that's the strongest medicine there is. And I plan to take it for a very, very long time.